Oriire funowo. Glad tidings to you. Shamona oro mi, iro mi, ati ishe mi, sodo ashe yori. I'm asking for guidance. Guide my words, my thoughts, and my actions towards success. Ashe, ashe, ashe. So this is the first video in a series of videos that I'm going to do on what we're calling Ifa Iwa Practice. This is the introductory video to this series. I started the other series going back and looking again at the blogs that I've done through from 2016 coming forward, and this is a second series that I'm starting. Now, really, I intended this series to be for my spiritual godchildren, Omo Ile-Ife Orisa, the children of Ile-Ife Orisa, their lessons to help advance them in their Ifa practice. But I was encouraged, motivated to open it up. So when I put it out on YouTube, it'll be available to a wider audience. And one of the things that motivated me to do that is one of a number of letters that I've gotten over the years from individuals who are, just seeking. I mean, they've been called, they felt a connection to a certain Orisa, they heard about Orisa, they feel moved to Ifa practice, but no Babalawo around, no access, no teacher, no, resource available to them that they can have confidence in that it's taking them in the right direction. So, I'll just call her L Smith, wrote me recently in October. She said, "Hello, peace and blessings to you. My name is, and I've been on a long journey that has directed me to your site. I am interested in learning more about my true past. Since I was 18 months old, something has called me to Yoruba, and I am asking for assistance. There is something I am supposed to do, and I do believe Oya has summoned me." Well, that's a powerful thing, And so I know there are a lot of people out there like that. There are a lot of individuals out there like that. I was out there like that, introduced to Ifa and not really knowing, even if you do a Google search, any kind of search on the internet, you get a lot of hits. What's right? And they don't all agree with each other. What's the correct thing? What's the incorrect thing? So, as the Oluranse Emese, the voice of the Emese, and our website being the official website, I was encouraged that in my role, doing videos that give people the basic information that they need to begin their practice, and at the same time, enough information that if they are seeking further, they at least have enough background to be able to ask the right questions and look for the right signs, indications that the people that they're speaking to, the Egbe that they're going to, is indeed leading them on a path that's going to fulfill them if what they're seeking is truly Ifa. And so that's what this series of videos are designed to do, to elevate my spiritual godchildren, and at the same time to reach that audience out there that is beginning their journey, right at the beginning of their journey of exploring the Ifa tradition of Orisa and Ancestor worship. So let's jump in. A people's culture is their entire design for living, passed on from one generation to the next through learning. I'll say that again. People's culture is their entire design for living. And how is that design made permanent? Well, it's passed on from one generation to the next. How? Through learning. Now, you and I both know that learning is not an exact process. Take the message train experiment as an example. You know that if we start a message from one person and pass it to someone and pass it to someone and they pass it to someone and they pass it to someone, what comes out at the other end is not what went in the beginning. Why? Because each person translates what they hear as it's coming in, and then they translate it again as it's going out. They add their own flavor, their own scent to what has been said. And so the process of passing on the culture is not exact. And one of the ways that we can place some kind of value on a culture is to take a look at its permanence. How long has a cultural tradition been able to sustain itself? Okay, and if we get into hundreds and thousands of years, then we know that we're looking at something that has great power. Okay, so a people's culture is their entire design for living, passed on from one generation to the next through learning. Now, let me pull up my iPad here for a minute. Let us look at Odu Ogundaka. This is the 203rd Odu, Sacred Odu of Ifa. So we're talking about culture. Listen to what Ifa says in terms of the organization of society. Aboru Aboye. He awakened and put on clothes of specialization. He put on a cap of specialization. He put on pants of specialization. He was looking with the eyes of specialization. They said, Orunmila, the delegate of Olodumare, has arrived. They demanded to know what he brought with him. He responded that out of the 200 men on the right, listen now, 25 would specialize in hunting, 25 would specialize in farming, 25 would specialize in trading, 25 would specialize in weaving, 25 would specialize in singing, 25 would specialize in sculpting, 25 would specialize in blacksmithing. The remaining 25 would specialize in doing the work of Ifa. Look at the organizational structure, the divinely ordained organizational structure of culture, of society. This is what culture is designed to do. And out of the 200 females on the left, 25 would specialize in merchandising, 25 would specialize in trade, 25 would specialize in farming, 25 would specialize in singing, 25 would specialize in weaving, 25 would specialize in palm oil processing, 25 would specialize in midwifery. The remaining 25 would specialize in cooking for Ifa. This is Sacred Odu Ogundaka. Beautiful, beautiful. So we know then that in terms of the divine plan, I mean, you look at the universe, okay? Look at nature, the plants, the animals, etc. You know that there's organization in creation. There's a blueprint for this thing. This is not just some haphazard kind of thing going on. We're part of something that has a design to it. And so we need to be asking ourselves, what is the proper design for me to live the best possible life? So when we say, Ifani ki isen, Ifa is not a religion, we're bearing witness to the fact that this culture, this spiritual tradition evolved, grew up in a cultural context, a context in which every institution, every activity within the culture supports the ideas, the beliefs, and the methods of Ifa. It's a comprehensive, well-integrated system of beliefs. It's not, here's my culture and religion is a part of my culture. There's this religious institution over here. No, no. The religion, if you want to call it religion, the way of being in the world, let's call it that. It's not a religion. The way of being in the world evolves from and is woven into the very fabric of everyday life. That's the point. Everything that's going on during the course of the day is supporting Ifa. So, for those who grow up indigenously in the Ifa tradition, their process of learning to live Ifa begins immediately after birth. The Akoso Jaye, right? The ceremony that takes place 7 days, as some people say 3. Ifa, I was taught 7 days after the birth of the child, a ceremony, a reading is done to determine what did that child come into the world to do? What's the path that they've chosen for themselves when they came in, as they were coming into the world? So Ifa, so right away, I mean, we're born, if you're born in the tradition, if you're born indigenously in Ifa, then right away you begin to absorb, to live Ifa. Okay. Trying to stay close to my notes here because I can go off here. So, for one who's born indigenously in the tradition, it's a truism. Ifani bawaye shishe. Ifa is how the universe works. That's it. It just is what it is. You think a fish thinks about water? No, of course not. It just is the way that the universe works, okay? Ifani iwati aye. Ifa is the nature of the universe. One of my prayers, Ori mi ape re, ori mi ape sen, Oriire fin labu. The fish uses its head to talk to the water. It's born in water. It lives in water. Its life is in the water. That his head is designed simply to live in the water. Okay. When we're born, we come from one tradition, Orun, heaven, into another tradition. If the tradition that we are born into is Ifa, then Ifa creates this continuation, this continuity between before and after, okay, before birth and after birth. Let me give you a couple examples to make this clearer. Flies. Take some fly larvae, put them in a jar, put it in the jar. Put some, grass and some stuff down in there and put a top on it and punch some holes in the top so that there's air. Let the flies mature in the jar. They'll feed off of their chrysalis, their larvae sac initially, and then whatever stuff, their poop and other stuff. So let them mature in the jar. And then after they've matured in the jar for a while, take the top off the jar. Now let's back up. When the flies are in the jar with the top on, as they mature, they're going to crawl up the side of the jar and crawl back down. They're going to fly to the top of the jar, hit the ceiling, and fly back down. That's their environment. Okay. Now you come along and you take the top off the jar. What happens? The flies crawl up the side of the jar to the top and crawl back down. They fly to the top of the jar and stop and fly back down. They have a premature cognitive commitment that their life is defined by the space within that jar. Take some fish, put them in a fish tank, young fish. Put a glass partition down the middle of the tank. And so each side gets food. They mature. They've been going to the center, boop, hit the glass partition, they go back, come into the center, hit, boop, go back. Now, come along and take the glass partition out of the center of the tank. Guess what happens? You got it. Fish fly to the center, swim to the center, and swim back. Swim to the center and swim back. They don't cross that imaginary line. Why? Because they have learned that their world, their reality, is defined by the space within one half of that fish tank. Elephant. Tie a chain around the baby elephant's ankle. You've heard this. Elephant tries to get away. It can't. The other end is around the tree. Tries to get away. It can't. Let the elephant mature. After a while, take the chain off, put a rope on. Put the rope around even a smaller tree than the one that the baby elephant was fighting against. Elephant, big elephant, could uproot the tree, walk away with half the town. But what happens? He walks a little bit, feels that rope tug on his ankle, and he stops. Why? Because as powerful as he is, he has a premature cognitive commitment that he cannot free himself from that ankle restraint. That is what has happened to us. I'm talking especially now to the black man and woman in America, and really throughout the diaspora, to people of color in general, throughout. This is what's happened to us. The same scenario, same conditioning process, the hypnosis of social conditioning. So, for those of us who come up in a culture other than the Ifa culture, that come up especially in the West, we have to overcome the social conditioning. We have to escape the premature cognitive commitments that hold us back from being able to do the things that we need to do, achieve the things that we came into the world to achieve, and to honor the contracts that we've made. Take a pencil, stick it in the jar of flies, and stir. Guess what? Because of the agitation in the environment, more of the flies escape. Less than 10% of the flies would ever escape the jar before they died. But take the pencil and stick it in there, more of the flies escape, and then guess what? When the flies remaining see the other flies escaping, they say, George left. Let me check this out. And then they make their move. And more flies follow. And then more flies follow. Same thing with the fish. We can agitate that environment, change things up. The fish across the tank. So listen. We've come up in a cultural tradition that has compromised our real power as a people. And what Ifa offers us is a way to agitate our mind. Agitate our mind in such a way that those old shells begin to crack. And what really has been laying dormant within us can come to the forefront. That is what this series of lessons is about. Ifa Iwa, Ifa Practice. Iwa means a practice, not the verb to practice, but the noun, a practice. A practice is the actual application and use of an idea, a belief, or a method, as opposed to mere theorizing about it. Okay? So when we say Ifa Iwa, we're talking about actually the practice, establishing Ifa as a practice in our life. Why a practice? Because we weren't born in the culture. It's that simple. We weren't born in the culture. And not only that, we weren't born in the Ifa tradition, born in the Ifa culture. And this is true, by the way, even for those of us who grow up in an Ifa practicing family, but outside of the cultural environment of Ifa. Same thing is true. We've experienced the hypnosis of social conditioning. We've adopted some of the ways of the Western culture, the non-Ifa culture that we live in. And so as a result, there's some stuff that we need to work on too, to get rid of, to realign ourselves with Ifa as practice, as born in Ile-Ife, Nigeria, Yoruba land, West Africa. So look, in terms of establishing Ifa practice, Ifa Iwa, I'm using a doctor as an analogy, just becoming a doctor. So first, there's a period of learning and studying from lectures, books, and other resources. Okay, initial experience, right? Period of learning. Then there's the process of skills development, okay, where the students begin observing the actual application of some of the knowledge. Then they will begin applying some of their knowledge under supervision. Later, the doctor-to-be will do a period of internship and residency where they broaden their scope and depth of understanding and begin applying the skills of being a doctor of their particular specialty, if it's a specialty. Okay? And then, finally, they're able to set up their office, hang up their shingle. This is their practice. It's an established practice. Now, all of what they've learned through all of those difficult years of study, okay, is now under their control. They decide what they will do, when they will do it, and the methodology that they will use based on what they have learned to deal with their particular clientele, their particular patients. So Ifa Iwa implies the actual application of the ideas, beliefs, and methods of Ifa's spiritual tradition of Orisa and Ancestor worship. These ideas, beliefs, and methods are enshrined in the Sacred Odu Ifa, the sacred oracles of Ifa. These ideas, beliefs, and methods of Ifa Iwa find expression in our daily living of Ifa. So they're enshrined in the Sacred Odu, and Ifa practice finds its expression. Our Ifa practice finds its expression in our daily living. Okay. So here are some, by all means, not all, but some of the basic elements, foundational elements of Ifa practice. And we're going to identify these elements. We're going to talk about each of the elements in a separate video. And then we're going to put it all together in a regular practice that we will do as Omo Iliawo Orisha, and for those of you in the general community out there that want to participate and move along with us, you're welcome. We invite you to do that. So these basic elements: Adora, prayer; Isoro, meditation; Afoshe, divination; Ebo, sacrifice; ceremony and ritual. So Ishe Isen and Ti'ilana Isen, ceremony and ritual. And we're going to detail all of this in future tapes as we talk about each one of these categories. A'awe, fasting; and Rereiwa, seeking the good condition. Okay, these are the basic 7 foundational elements of your Ifa practice: prayer, meditation, divination, sacrifice, ceremony, fasting, and seeking the good condition, a requirement that Olodumare has put on us that keeps us in the cycle of birth and death. Not until we bring the good condition to every human being will we stop having to come back to this earth experience and be able to move forward on another plane. So these are the 7 elements. And we can find the reference to Ifa in Odu Irosu'wori, the 77th Odu. So establishing Ifa practice, Ifa Iwa, requires patience, persistence, discipline, and diligent study. This won't be easy. Okay? It's not intended to be, but it's intended to be enjoyable and growth-orienting. Okay? The process of establishing Ifa Iwa is one of gradually transforming your activities of Huwa Ifa into the state of Ifa Iwa. Okay? Huwa Ifa means I'm practicing my Ifa like a martial artist. I'm not a master yet. I'm practicing my Ifa. Okay, so that's Huwa, practicing, the verb Huwa, practicing. Okay, we practice so that at some point we become good enough in our technique that I can say, I got that. I can now teach that to somebody else. I can now call myself Sifu or master. Okay, somebody else will call me master because they see that I got it. Okay, so we practice on a regular basis these basic elements so that at a certain point in our life, we can live our life in Ifa as though, not in fact, but as though we grew up in the culture, as though we grew up in the Ifa tradition. Whether we get there in this lifetime is irrelevant. It's the process that's important. So, hope you're going to take this ride with me. And this did pretty good. I did 27 minutes. I thought this was going to be longer, but it turned out to be less than a half an hour, which is where I want to kind of keep these lessons. So if you want to grow in Ifa, establish a foundational practice in your Ifa, by all means, subscribe to my channel. I do tapes on martial arts and the other series that are Ifa series that I mentioned, and this. So if you click notifications, you'll be notified every time I upload something. And if you're just interested in these lessons, then just respond to the notification that one of these lessons has come out. Okay. Oriire, Funowo, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Ifo Kanbele, peace of mind from Olodumare.